Well, my clear glass has cooled off now, so it's time to put that last layer on. Steve's going to open the furnace for me. And it's pretty hot here in front of the furnace, but most of the time when we're working in the studio, we work barehanded. And that's basically so that we don't have to wrestle with a pair of gloves. Gloves can really cut your dexterity, so we tend to work with clear glass and bare hands. So the next trick is to shape the outside of this piece. I'm going to use a bigger piece of wet wood this time. And again, what I'm doing right now is very critical. I'm positioning the shape of the glass to be exactly the right contour, so that when I finally pull this into the shape of a faucet, it's nice and even. So what I'm doing here is I'm letting the glass come down to exactly the right temperature. And again, the only way to really learn this is to make a couple hundred tries and find out what works and what doesn't work. So now I'm rolling the glass where I want it to have a little more stiffness. And I'm adjusting the heat and the shape at the same time. And then I blow very carefully. Okay. It's starting to be the right shape, but it's getting a little cold, so I'm going to reheat it here. I reheat it in this oven behind me. It's called a glory hole. And this is about a 2300 degree Fahrenheit furnace, and we only turn it on when we're working, but it's very useful to put specific heat on very specific parts of the piece. So what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to heat the bottom of the piece, because the bottom of the piece is, right now it's a little thick, and I need to thin it out so that that contour in the final faucet is perfectly even. So I'm going to heat up the bottom here just a little bit more. Now I'm going to roll the back so that it cools down and blow, and the glass should move forward. There it goes. Now I'm going to start thinning this piece out, because the next step is going to be a mold. And I know what you're saying. You're saying, oh, but don't you shape these by hand? Yes, I shape the final shape by hand, but there's actually a mold that doesn't really affect the shape of the piece, but it puts those ridges in it. And those ridges are important for two reasons. One, they make the piece very strong. It's sort of like corrugating the glass. The glass that's ridged is extremely strong. And if that weren't enough, after we finish making these in the studio, all of these pieces are tempered, and I'll show you a little demonstration of just how strong the glass is later. But that corrugation adds strength, and it also adds some beauty. It makes the glass very sort of sparkly and reflective, and if you put a strong light over one of these faucets, it's just breathtaking. So to put those ridges in, I'm going to use this device down here at my feet. You can see me pointing to it. It's called an optic mold, and it's just a piece of aluminum with fins on the inside. And the fins will contact that glass, and if I blow a hot bubble of glass into this mold, it will create a bunch of ridges, and those ridges will be evident in the final piece. So what I'm doing now is I'm shaping the glass so that it will fit perfectly into the mold. And this is actually a fairly difficult thing to do, because if you want to have really good mold marks, you have to go into the mold with the glass super hot. And the problem with super hot glass is that it doesn't have any strength, it doesn't have any structure, and it tends to ooze and run onto the floor. So you can lose a piece right here, but if you want to make a really good one, you have to take that risk. You have to get it super hot, and frankly, if I miss, we'll just re-edit the video and you'll never know. Okay, it's getting really hot here. You can see how sloppy and floppy the glass is when it comes out, right into the mold. And now we've got those ridges in, and the next step is for me to put a little indentation in the edge of the piece. And I do that so that we can break the piece off the blowpipe later. And I adjust the shape a little bit. There we go. Very good. Okay, so this is the last time I really get to play with the shape of the piece. And I have to make sure that everything is right, because in order to make a really beautiful glass faucet, you can't touch the glass during the final movements. And so what I'm going to do now, Steve's going to come in and help me. I'm going to cool this pipe down so I can grab it a little further, put on a pair of gloves, and be right back. Well, I got a Kevlar glove on one hand and a Kevlar sleeve. This is to protect my hand, because I'm going to have to get very close to this glass for the final shape. And this is the real secret of making these things. The trick to making a beautiful piece of glass is to not touch it at the end, so that there are no tool marks, there's no evidence that the glass was ever touched. And in fact, to make these faucets, we don't touch them. We let them fall, we let gravity and a little bit of cooling with some compressed air make the final shape. And I do this by hand, and if I do it right, the faucet looks like it just grew there, like this totally organic form that doesn't have any hard lines or hard spots in it. And I've got to concentrate to do this, so I'm going to just stop talking here until this is done. Got to get it very, very hot. Okay, here it is. And start swinging it out. Steve? Okay. And the final trick is to adjust it so the water comes out exactly the way I want it to, just like that. When we first started making glass faucets, everyone was afraid that they were going to break. Now, as a glass blower, I know a lot about glass and how it's very strong, but just to explain what's going on here, when we make a glass faucet, we use very high quality control, and we only ship the ones that are the proper contour. So there's a lot of glass here, and it's also corrugated. This ridge, in addition to being beautiful, gives the glass a lot of strength. And to cap it off, we then temper each piece individually, and the end result is a piece of glass that is incredibly strong. And we guarantee this for life. Well, even after making these things for a year and a half, I still make a lot of mistakes, and in front of you, you see some of the problems with making an all-glass faucet by hand. To make a faucet, it has to be perfect. The glass has to have the right contour, has to have the right color, it can have no surface imperfections, and then it's got to be beautiful, and a lot of these pieces just aren't quite right. So they're beautiful pieces of glass, but they're not going to be faucets. So I'll let you in on a little secret since you're watching this video, and that is, here at Third Degree Glass Factory where I work, we sell these pieces as sculpture. They're about $100 a piece, and you can call the studio and get some nice looking glass. Now, they're not going to be plumbing, but they are sort of pretty. So you can check us out on the web at www.stlglass.com.